my fellow Azerothians, if I can be serious with you for a moment, we have a serious problem. This has been a problem that's been brewing, and I've been fighting myself, fighting the good fight for a good many years now. But I think it's time that more information got out there, because there's been a great deal of misconceptions and conspiracies put out by the enemies. Now, the Scourge that has been released by Blizzard is more tedious than Apexis dailies, more obnoxious than year-long content droughts. I am, of course, talking about Gnomes. Now, what's wrong with Gnomes, I hear you ask? Well, I'm going to explain. I've spent many years explaining this to people in guilds I've been in, with a great deal of success. There have been a number of guilds that I have joined, almost always alliance guilds that I've been part of, where there have been Gnomes on the roster when I've joined. Nothing unusual about that, unfortunately. And when I've left, there have been no Gnomes whatsoever. I don't have a 100% strike rate. It is a very complex problem after all. But what I need to do is to explain to everyone the problems of the Gnomes, and especially why they are not the master race. The first little hint should come from that term itself, the master race. What happens? Where does this come from? It comes from the fact that whenever anyone disparages a gnome, that is the response you get, isn't it? Try it if you've never seen this. Call into question the usefulness of a gnome. Their response is as one. Gnomes are the master race. The reason is because they have a little pamphlet that they're issued with. So whenever anyone says anything, they know what to say. Pretty much every response is gnomes are the master race, it has to be said. The gnome is a creature of very low intellect. It can't remember a great deal. This is why Blizzard gave them intellect buffs when the game came out, because they need all the help they can get. Their heads, although bulbous and large for their bodies, are still not really well equipped with the sufficient blood supply to support a large brain. Now, in order to do this, I had to make some great personal sacrifices. I needed to show a few things, so I rolled a couple of gnomes. It was very stressful. I'm recovering now. Thank you for your concern. And just to highlight how much they addle the brain, is I rolled I rolled them beyond level 10 even, and then realised, because I need to show a couple of spells, that I could just roll them on the Legion servers as a pre-made level 100 without having to do all that. But that just goes to show you the effect they have. They make you as stupid as a stick in mud. Now, nonetheless, I have still had to play a gnome. It's very wearing. It's a great personal sacrifice that I have made. It was fraught with danger. I mean, rolling a gnome character, what if someone in my battle tag saw? What would they think? And I couldn't just broadcast a message saying what the situation was, because that would just draw attention to it. I needed to do it on the quiet. Try and do it off peak when maybe people wouldn't notice. I think I got away with it. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, the fact that I'm doing this video means that they will know that I've done it, but hopefully also know and understand the reason. The great sacrifices I've gone to. I mean, I'm a hero, really. I should be getting medals and parades. A knighthood, at least. But that can wait till later. For now, we've got to spread the word. We've got to get this out there. And basically, I'm going to go through 5 solid reasons why the gnome is not the master race. You might be unconvinced at the moment, but by the end of it, any reasonably intelligent person will be able to see this, and then we can start our revolution. Now, we might as well start at the beginning, when we create a gnome, or, sorry, I'll rephrase that. When foolish people create a gnome, where do you start? You start in the city. This is fantastic. Wouldn't we love to start in our city? We've got the bank and the auction house there. Mailboxes, but we now have mailboxes in our starter area. Thank you very much, Blizzard. Everything we could possibly want to start our character off. There's usually even a couple of quests in the cities. But the gnomes start in their city and then leave it. They immediately leave it. Now, why is this, you may ask? Are they stupid? No, they're not stupid. Well, they are stupid. But that's not the reason they're fleeing their city because it's been taken over. What's this? The master race kicked out of their city? Has Sargeras himself descended upon Nomragon? No. It's Trogs. Level 25 Trogs. The single most primitive humanoid on Azeroth has bested the Gnomes. Now, of course, when this first happened many years ago, before the time of World of Warcraft, I suppose, they scuttled off to the dwarfs. They'd been sponging off the Ironforged dwarfs. And you might have supposed maybe they just like it there. They were allowed their own little quarter, the Tinkertown place with the cogs. You know, maybe they just thought we'd like it here. We don't want our city back. Unfortunately, come Cataclysm and you know, a little campaign to retake Nomragon came along. This basically showed their hand. They want Nomragon back. They actually want to take it back. Did they succeed? Well, if you call pitching up tents surrounded by sludge outside of your city succeeding in taking back your city, then yes. In all other respects, no, they're still not there, are they? They actually can't even retake their old city. They're pretty much the only race without a city. And there are a couple of others. Trolls, to be fair, have lost most of their lands anyway. They're sort of ruins. So that, you know, that's their story. You know, Worgen, they probably wouldn't want to go back. But the Gnomes actually want their city, and they can't even get it. Well, if that's not reason enough, I don't know what is. That reason alone exposes them. But I can go further. There are other examples as well. The next example, or the next reason I should say, sorry, is that they're just crap at everything. They're utterly useless. I mean, they talk about their great inventions. What started this off, the reason I've decided to do this video, just as a little aside if you'll allow me, is because last week I was responding to a tweet from a community manager, Nefera, and he asked, perfectly reasonably, who should we have defending our garrison? Who would we prefer? And people were saying all sorts of things, different races. And I thought to myself, I don't mind. And I replied, I'm not a racist. I don't mind who defends my garrison. Obviously, except gnomes. And the response from the gnome mafia was extraordinary. Thera, to be fair, did try and warn me, but I'm experienced with facing down gnomes. The usual threats came out, the usual, we are the master race. Was I worried? Not a bit of it. I have several lines of defence against gnomes. For a start, I have very thick steel-plated boots. The rest of my armour doesn't matter, they can't jump any higher than that. I also have a Murloc death squad. And then I said, maybe as a last line of defence I should erect a wall, perhaps. A small line of pebbles, maybe. And they scoffed at this. We created the gyrocopter, they said. Has anyone ever been in a gnome gyrocopter? Really? Does it look like it can stay in the air for any length of time to you? Have you ever been in one and it's actually lasted? What happens on quests when you go into one of these contraptions of the gnomes? That's right. It lands nose first in the dirt, usually rendering you unconscious. These things are never used twice, let's be honest. And then comes the issue of healing. Healing, the finest role, of course. I know I'm a DPS, but I have immense respect, really, for healers. I've been a healer myself. And gnomes, of course, had no healers for years. It took them years to train up their first healer. And then in Cataclysm, Blizzard blighted us once more. It was bad enough we had gnomes. Now we were going to have gnome priests. But even then, does that mean that they were able to train up their healers? Well, no, not really. You don't see many gnome priests. You see the odd one. There's the odd one who does it. And do they do it to heal? No, of course not. So just as before, you could never have an all-gnome party before because it wouldn't work. The same is still pretty much true now. Gnome priests don't heal you. I've been in a guild with a gnome priest. They never healed me. What did they do instead? They life gripped me into shit. That's what they wanted to roll a priest for. That's how their evil, devious, insidious little minds work, you see. Third reason is they're just so annoying. Everything about them grates on you. Take Arcane Explosion. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to roll a gnome mage. I say want. I use that term in its loosest definition possible. I had to, really. And it's one of the simplest spells. It's a nice enough spell. It has its uses, but it's so simple. And you look at any other race casting, it's just a spell. They're cool about it. Yeah. Arcane Explosion. Look at a gnome doing an Arcane Explosion. Jumping in the air, trying to wave its hands in the air, trying to attract attention. Look at me. Look at me. Look how clever I am. It's like a little boy at the side of a pool. Look, Mum, before he jumps into the pool. Look, Mum. Look, Mum. Look at me, Mum. Look at me, Mum. As soon as Mum looks, jumps in the pool. Drowns, usually. That's what it's like. And it's the single simplest thing. What on earth would they do? How would they react? Have you ever thought about this? If they ever did anything useful. Oh my God, stuff would just come out of every orifice. In a tide of overjoy. Fortunately, I don't think they ever will do anything useful, so we'll never see the day when this happens, because I shudder to think how they will react. But that's not their only annoying habit. I mean, that's an annoying habit for like casters, particularly the mages. Most of them tend to be mages, and this is quite important. That's typically what they were, because in their brain-addled state, of course, they failed to notice that the reason why Blizzard gave gnomes an intellect buff was just because they're so dim. They thought that it makes them good casters. Oh dear. Ignorance is bliss, isn't it? But some of them rolled other things. Some of them rolled gnome rogues and gnome warriors, which is sad enough, because melee do get very nice weapons from time to time, and they just diminish them. I remember in Wrath of the Lich King beta seeing a gnome rogue with the twin blades of Azeroth. I think it was the most upsetting thing I'd ever seen in Warcraft up to that point. But some of them are not happy simply rolling a melee. They'll roll a warrior, or now a death knight, or even a monk, and then they'll go tank. And here's the other problem. Because gnomes, when they get hits, they squeak. It's hideously annoying. It's like seriously annoying. When they die, they make a wonderful sound though. When I was a healer, I used to stand near gnome casters, because they rarely got hit, because of course the non-gnome tank was doing a good job. But they did die. Oh, I made sure they died. And then I'd be there within earshot to hear their lovely death cries. But when I rolled melee during TBC and went ret, I came upon a truth, an obvious truth really, but it hit me full in the face. And that is that, as I say, gnomes squeak when they get hit. That's the thing about gnomes. And the thing about tanks is it is their job to get hit. So gnome tanks squeak a lot. A lot. And when you're melee, you're quite close to the tank of necessity. And you're well in earshot. And the squeaking is unbearable. And when I rolled ret, I joined a guild that had a gnome tank. It was hideous. Hideous. And not for the first time, it nearly drove me to despair. Why don't you just turn the sound effects off, people say. Why should I? Why should I be held to ransom by these gnomes? Why don't Blizzard just delete all gnomes? That would be a much simpler solution. The next reason is that they are an actual mistake. Not my opinion, it's in the game. It's the law. They're a mistake. Gnomes are a complete mistake in several ways. In law terms, they are a mistake because they shouldn't be on our raids. Actually, they should be on our raids. We do have genuine gnomes in our raids, but they're not filling up our raid slots, and they're not taking our loot, and they're not taking our mounts. No, 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 no. We have two types of gnome. We have Jeeves and we have Bligtron, because that's what gnomes are. They're mechanical beings. Useful. Jeeves repairs our gear for us and then buggers off. Doesn't hang around to cause trouble. Doesn't say annoying things. Takes our money, repairs our armour, fucks off. Bligtron gives us nice little presents. If we bring out another Bligtron, they will fight to the death for our amusement. This is what gnomes should be. Not the ones we have now. The law is called the curse of flesh. This is what happened to gnomes. To change them from being useful to the ultra annoying gnomes that you are thinking of right now. It's a mistake. The curse of flesh. Curse of gnomes, quite frankly. They're a mistake in other ways. Blizzard knows they made a mistake. I think it was the result of a drunken bet while playing Dungeons and Dragons that they even decided to put gnomes in the first place. I'm pretty sure Alliance was supposed to get goblins instead originally. They would have been far better. But you'll notice there is no gnome in any cinematic. They're just not there. Of course not. It would be ridiculous. Blizzard have been producing every time more and more impressive cinematics. Every time, every new expansion. Could you imagine how much less epic it would be if during this huge battle scene or this huge scene of reflection, a pink-haired, mustachioed midget came into view? It would be ridiculous. You notice in the Warcraft movie trailer, in the last trailer, we had sight of a dwarf in Ironforge and everything went, yeah, yeah. We've seen some more dwarfs now in the newest trailer. No gnomes. No one's even asking about gnomes. The question's not even been asked, do you think there'll be gnomes? Because the answer is obvious, of course not. They're trying to make a good film. They're trying to make a film that will be epic, that will attract people who are not normally World of Warcraft initiated, really. They want it to look good. They're not going to achieve that by putting gnomes into it. It's a nonsense. And then there's the final reason. The final reason is by far the most compelling. Easily the most compelling. And that is genetics. Now, I'm a physicist, but when I was at university, there's a couple of options. We had some options. I chose to do genetics and molecular biology. It was of interest to me, so I know a thing or two about this. And I'm here to tell you that the gnome race does not even want to exist. This is science, people. I'm not making this up. Their own genes are trying to eradicate their race. Unlike most other races where your genes equip you for the survival of your species. No, no, no. Where's the evidence for this? Simple. Create a gnome character. Create two. Create a female and a male. Female gnome character. Big, bright eyes. Fair complexion. Cute little pigtails. They are designed to look cute. They're a bit like kittens, really, aren't they? They suck you in as well. They look cute when they're kittens. Oh, aren't they nice? Aren't they sweet? And then they grow up to be cats, which are not at all nice. But of course, by the time they've grown up to be cats, they've trained their owners into thinking they're still cute. Gnomes do much the same, except for a far more nefarious purpose. So the gnome females are designed to look very attractive. And then we come to the gnome males. Have you ever seen such a hideous gargoyle in all your life? They're gruesome. They are absolutely repulsive. It's no wonder World of Warcraft is rated teen. You couldn't let a small child play this game. They might accidentally roll a gnome male. The nightmares would be horrific. You couldn't give them worse nightmares by getting said small child to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. This is far worse. So you have a situation where the females are attractive and the males are hideous. Well, what's going to happen here? Are the males and females going to mate? Of course not. What will happen is the females will mate with other races, rather more sensible races. Eventually the gnome blood will be diluted out and finally eradicated, and gnomes will no longer exist. The males will go on to lead a life of loneliness, creating gnomish contraptions which will inevitably blow them up, and that will be the end of the gnome race. So it is going to happen eventually anyway. Genetics is just saying that. It's obvious. It's just that it would help if it happened a little bit sooner. You know, I mean, they're just an abomination. Nature knows this. Their own genes know this. So there we go. By now, of course, being intelligent people, you should be fully seized upon the idea that gnomes are not only not the master race, they're not even a race at all, are they? I mean, I liken them to bacteria, really. Because people say, why do you hate gnomes? I don't hate gnomes. I don't at all. I don't hate bacteria. It doesn't stop me washing my hands and killing them. It's just something that has to be done. We take no pleasure from it. It just has to be done in order for us to live a healthy life. So there we go. Thanks very much for listening. And could you remember, please spread the word. It's very important that over the next few years of World of Warcraft, we slowly claw back the gnomes and we will see a much healthier population on Azeroth. Thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. And if you didn't like, you're probably a gnome. Comment anyway, and I will send my Murloc Death Squad to take you out. Goodbye.